It had been one of the most exhausting and mentally draining weeks of my life. Work had pushed me to the edge, and by Friday evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed silence, isolation, anything to escape the pressure building inside my head. So, without overthinking it, I booked a remote cabin on Airbnb for that same night. I packed quickly, just the essentials, and brought my dog along for company. The drive took about an hour and a half, winding further and further away from civilization. About 20 minutes before reaching the cabin, I stopped in a small, almost eerily quiet town and picked up a bottle of wine. There was something unsettling about the place, like time had slowed down, or maybe stopped altogether. Just a minute away from the cabin, I grabbed some food from a tiny roadside restaurant, the kind of place where everyone seems to know each other and you don't belong. By the time I reached the cabin, it was around 7:45 p.m. The sun was just barely hanging on to the horizon, casting long shadows through the dense woods surrounding the area. The cabin itself sat deep down a gravel road, about a 5-minute drive off the main road. It felt isolated, too isolated. Not completely off-grid, but enough to make you uneasy if you thought about it too long. There was no cell service once you got close. It vanished, like the outside world had been cut off. At first, I didn't mind. That was the whole point. The place was simple, nothing luxurious, but clean. Electricity worked, the bathroom looked recently updated, and there was a microwave and fridge. What stood out the most were the windows. There were windows on every wall, almost like the cabin wanted you to see outside at all times. Or maybe something outside wanted to see in. I stepped onto the porch and took a deep breath. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction, thick and dark, already beginning to swallow the last light of day. I decided to start a fire. As the flames slowly came to life, crackling in the growing darkness, I sat there with my dog beside me. For a while, everything felt peaceful, just the sound of the fire and the distant whispers of the woods. But that silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something was listening. By the time the fire burned low, it was already past 11 p.m. The forest had gone completely dark. No distant lights, no passing cars, nothing. Just an endless wall of black trees surrounding the cabin. Even the wind had died down, leaving behind a heavy, unnatural silence. I put out the fire and went inside with my dog, locking the door behind me. The moment I lay down, something felt off. My dog, who had been calm all evening, suddenly became alert. His ears stood up, his body stiffened, and his eyes locked toward the door, then toward the windows, then back again. At first, I brushed it off. It's the woods, I told myself. Animals, branches, normal sounds. But there were no sounds. That was the problem. About 45 minutes passed. I was lying in bed, staring into the darkness, trying to relax, when knock. It was soft. So soft, I almost thought I imagined it. My entire body froze instantly. My heart dropped so fast, it felt like it disappeared into my stomach. I held my breath. Silence. Then, about 30 seconds later, knock, knock. This time, there was no doubt. Someone was at the door. 1,000 thoughts slammed into my mind at once. Did something go wrong with the booking? Was it the owner? Was there some emergency? But none of it made sense. There was no cell service out here, no warning, no reason for anyone to show up this late, this deep into the woods. I slowly sat up in bed,
trying not to make a sound. My dog let out a low, almost silent growl, something I had never heard from him before. That's when the fear truly hit. Not panic, not anxiety, pure cold fear. The kind that tells you something isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. I stayed completely still, staring toward the door, waiting, listening. But whoever or whatever was outside wasn't leaving.
I knew I couldn't just lie there forever. Whoever was outside wasn't going away, and the silence had become unbearable. Slowly, carefully, I slid out of bed. Every movement felt loud, even though I was barely making a sound. My eyes stayed locked on the front door, half expecting it to burst open at any second. There was a small window to the right of the door, facing the porch. I reached over and flipped on the porch light. For a split second, the glass reflected my own terrified face. Then, I leaned in and looked outside. A man was standing there, so close to the door that if he took one step forward, he'd be inside if it wasn't locked. My heart slammed against my chest so hard it almost hurt. He wasn't banging on the door. He wasn't yelling. He was just standing there, watching. There was something deeply wrong about how still he was. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, but his presence felt completely out of place, like he didn't belong in this world. Or maybe I didn't belong in his. He noticed me instantly. Our eyes met through the glass. Even with the old, worn-out window between us, I could tell he could hear me if I spoke. I swallowed hard and forced the words out. "What do you want?" My voice sounded sharper than I expected, fear mixed with anger. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly lifted his hand and motioned toward the door, as if telling me to open it. A cold wave ran down my spine. "Why?" I snapped, louder this time. That's when he spoke. His voice was calm, too calm. For a second, my brain couldn't even process what I had just heard. Out here, in the middle of nowhere at midnight, that was what he said? The fear inside me twisted instantly into something sharper. Anger, disbelief, and pure survival instinct. "That's not happening," I shot back immediately. "You need to leave right now. I have a GPS phone and I will call the police." It was a lie. There was no signal, no way to call anyone, but I needed him to believe it. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then, suddenly, he turned and walked off the porch, just like that. No argument, no reaction. He disappeared into the darkness as quietly as he had arrived. But somehow, that made it even worse. I didn't move. Even after he disappeared into the darkness, I just stood there, staring through the window, trying to see anything beyond the weak glow of the porch light. Nothing. Just trees, shadows, and that suffocating blackness. But I knew he hadn't just vanished. He was still out there, somewhere. I backed away from the window and returned to the bed, my mind racing. Every possible scenario started playing out in my head. What if he came back with something? A weapon? A way to break in? Or worse, someone else? Directly across from the bed was another window,
this one facing the driveway. I turned my head slowly and stared into the darkness outside. Then I saw it. Faint lights, low to the ground, barely visible. Running lights. A vehicle. My stomach dropped. I watched as the lights slowly shifted, then moved backward. He was leaving, or at least it looked like he was. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, like the forest itself was holding its breath. I lay there, completely frozen, trying to listen for anything. Footsteps, gravel crunching, an engine, anything. But there was nothing. No sound of a car starting, no tires on gravel, nothing. That didn't make sense. How did he get there so quietly? And how did he leave the same way? For the next few minutes, I didn't dare move. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it echoed in the room. Then survival mode kicked in. I scanned the room for anything I could use as a weapon. That's when I saw it, on the bedside table. A bottle of rubbing alcohol and a lighter. A horrible idea formed instantly, but in that moment, it felt like the only plan I had. If he came back, if he got inside, I wasn't going down without a fight. After a few minutes, I forced myself up and dragged a heavy chair from the small dining area. I pushed it firmly against the front door, wedging it tight under the handle. It wasn't much, but it was something. The cabin suddenly felt smaller. The windows that once seemed nice now felt like exposed vulnerabilities, dark openings into the unknown. I turned off all the lights and got back into bed, my eyes locked on the windows, my body tense, every nerve on edge. Sleep wasn't even a possibility. I just lay there, waiting, listening, praying that whatever had come to that door wouldn't come back.
I stayed like that for the rest of the night, completely still, wide awake, listening to every tiny sound the cabin made, every creak of the wood, every faint rustle outside, every shift of the wind through the trees. It all felt amplified, like something was trying to trick me into letting my guard down. But the man never came back, at least not that I could see. Hours passed, painfully slow, until the darkness finally began to fade. The first hint of gray light crept through the windows, pushing back the night that had felt endless. I didn't wait. The moment it was bright enough to see clearly, I got up, packed my things as fast as I could, and got out of that cabin. I didn't look back. As soon as I drove far enough to get cell service again, my phone lit up with notifications. It felt surreal, like re-entering the real world after being somewhere else. I immediately messaged the Airbnb owner and told them everything. They seemed shocked, said nothing like that had ever happened before. They even offered to help me file a police report. But I didn't. Maybe I should have. But I lived far away, and part of me kept trying to rationalize it, telling myself it was just a one-time incident. Still, the questions never left me. How did he know I was there? The only explanation that made sense was that he had seen me in that small town, about 20 minutes away, maybe followed me without me realizing it. And the way he arrived, that still haunts me. I never heard a car pull up, never saw headlights coming down the gravel road,
No sound of footsteps approaching the porch. Nothing. It was like he had just appeared and then left the same way, silently. To this day, I can't explain it. But one thing I know for sure is this. That night didn't feel random. It felt like I had been watched long before I even reached that cabin. And whatever stood on that porch wasn't just looking for a place to stay.
In the weeks leading up to that night, something in my life had already started to feel wrong. Not obviously wrong, not something you could point at and explain, but subtle, creeping, like being watched without ever seeing who was watching. There had been small things at first, items in my apartment going missing, doors that I was sure I had locked somehow being slightly open, strange noises late at night, soft, almost careful movements. My roommate even mentioned one night that he felt like someone had been inside while we were gone. At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself we were overthinking it, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Eventually, the feeling got so intense that I installed motion sensor cameras at every entry point of my apartment. Doors, windows, everything. I needed proof. Or maybe I just needed peace of mind. But even with the cameras, the feeling never went away. Then, one night, after going out drinking, everything escalated. I was on my way home, slightly drunk, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed a message on Tinder. It was from a girl. Her profile looked almost too perfect, attractive, friendly, and unusually eager to meet. That alone made me suspicious, because in my experience, when something feels too easy, it usually isn't real. Still, I replied. We started chatting, and within minutes, she suggested we meet up. No hesitation, no small talk, just straight to it. That was the first red flag. I tested her. I said, "Video call me." To my surprise, she agreed immediately. When the call came in, I answered, half expecting a fake or a glitch or some kind of trick, but it wasn't. It was her. She looked exactly like her photos. She seemed relaxed, a little high, smiling as she talked, telling me she just wanted some company, someone to hang out with. And somehow, that made it even stranger, because nothing about this situation should have been this easy. But against my better judgment, I said yes.
After the call ended, I just sat there for a moment, staring at my phone. Something didn't feel right. But at the same time, it was tempting. She lived only 5 minutes away. 5 minutes. That detail kept echoing in my head, like it was trying to convince me this was normal, easy, convenient. I told myself I was overthinking it. I took a quick shower, grabbed a bottle of liquor, and headed out. The night air was cold, slightly damp, and unusually quiet. As I walked through the streets, that same uneasy feeling started creeping back in, the one I had been dealing with for weeks. Like I wasn't alone, like someone already knew where I was going. As I got closer to the address she had sent, I slowed down. Across the street, there was an archway leading into a dimly lit apartment courtyard. It looked narrow, almost like a tunnel with shadows stretching deep inside. That's when I saw him, a man standing at the far end. The moment our eyes met, he quickly looked down at his phone, too quickly, like he had been watching me and didn't want me to know. I kept walking, but something told me to stop, so I did. I turned around and walked back toward the archway. And that's when it happened. The man peeked his head around the corner, just enough to look at me again. The second we made eye contact, he snapped back out of sight. My chest tightened instantly. When I stepped forward into full view of the archway again, he was suddenly back in the open, pretending to scroll on his phone like nothing had happened. Then he casually walked away, didn't look back, didn't react, just left. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to leave, to go home, to forget this entire thing. But before I could decide, I heard a voice behind me. "Hey, you coming?" I turned around. It was her, standing at the entrance, smiling like everything was completely normal. For a moment, I actually felt relieved. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe that guy was nothing. Maybe all of this was just in my head. So I followed her inside. And that's when things started to feel even more wrong.
We walked through the archway and into the building. At first, everything seemed normal, at least on the surface. But then she did something strange. Instead of going up the stairs like I expected, she turned and started heading down a narrow set of steps. "Basement, apartment," she said casually. That single sentence sent a quiet chill down my spine. I followed her anyway. Each step downward felt heavier, like I was walking into something I couldn't fully understand yet. When we reached the bottom, she opened the door and let me inside. And that's when the feeling hit me. Hard. There was nothing obviously wrong with the place, but that was exactly the problem. It was too empty. The living room had almost nothing in it, just a couch and a small table. No decorations, no personal items, no warmth. It didn't feel like someone lived there. It felt staged, like a set or a trap. I tried to ignore it, tried to act normal, but my instincts were already screaming at me to leave. "Come to my room," she said, turning toward a small hallway. I hesitated for half a second, then followed. The bedroom was even worse. Small, box-like, bare. A bed, an empty nightstand, nothing else. But what caught my attention immediately was the second door, closed, and from underneath it, water was slowly leaking out. Not a lot, but enough to form a thin, visible line across the floor, like something had spilled or overflowed and then stopped. I opened my mouth to ask about it, but before I could say anything, she grabbed me. Her hand moved fast, too fast, gripping me and pulling me closer. Her behavior changed instantly. Aggressive, rushed, desperate. She kissed me hard while guiding my hand inside her clothes, whispering for me to take mine off. It was overwhelming. Too much, too sudden. And in that moment, one thought became crystal clear in my head. This isn't right. Not even close. It didn't feel like attraction. It felt like distraction. Like she was trying to keep my focus on her so I wouldn't notice something else. Or someone else.
I tried to go along with it, just enough to not raise suspicion. But every second, the feeling grew stronger. Something was very, very wrong. She moved fast, too fast. Within seconds, she was completely undressed, pulling me down toward the bed, acting overly aggressive, almost rehearsed. It didn't feel natural. It felt forced. Like she had done this before. Like there was a reason she needed me distracted. Then, I heard it. A sound from outside the room. Soft, subtle, but unmistakable. Footsteps. Not loud, not careless. Careful. Slow.
like someone trying not to be heard. My entire body went cold. There was someone else in the apartment, right outside the door, moving, listening, waiting. At the same time, she leaned closer and whispered for me to take off my watch, said it was scratching her skin. That small request hit me harder than anything else. Why the watch? Why now? It felt like she was trying to remove anything I could use, anything that might slow me down or help me later. I sat up slightly, pretending to take it off, buying myself time. That's when I asked, "Why is there water coming from that door?" For a split second, she froze. Then she smiled, too quickly. "Yeah, I have water," she said, completely ignoring the question. That answer made no sense. None. My heart started pounding harder. And then I noticed something else. My lips, they were burning. A faint, strange sensation, like irritation or something chemical. I hadn't eaten anything recently. I hadn't touched anything unusual. Except her. That realization hit me like a shockwave. At the same time, I heard it again. Movement outside the door. Closer now. Closer than before. That's when fear fully took over. Not panic, not confusion. Clarity. I needed to get out. Now. I grabbed my phone, pretending to check the time, but instead, I opened a messaging app. I spoke out loud clearly, making sure anyone listening could hear me. "Hey guys, I'm at her address, basement apartment. I need one of you here right now. If I'm not outside, call the police." The reaction was instant. Her face changed. That calm, seductive expression disappeared completely, replaced by something else. Shock, fear, calculation. "Why are you being so paranoid?" she asked quickly. I looked straight at her. "Who'd outside the door?" She didn't deny it, didn't even hesitate. "My friend." No explanation, no reason, just that. That was all I needed. I stood up immediately and started getting dressed. I didn't care how it looked anymore. I just needed to leave. The atmosphere in the room changed completely the moment I started getting dressed. No more pretending, no more smiles, just silence, and tension so thick it felt physical. She didn't stop me, she just watched. And that was somehow worse. From outside the room, I could still hear faint movement, careful footsteps in the living room. Whoever was out there wasn't rushing. They were waiting, listening, like they already knew how this would end. I moved toward the door. Every step felt like it took longer than the last. The hallway outside the bedroom was dim, almost suffocating in its darkness. I could barely make out shapes, furniture silhouettes, shadows that didn't feel right. I kept expecting someone to step out in front of me, but no one did. That silence was intentional, controlled. When I reached the top of the stairs leading out of the basement, my hands were shaking. I couldn't tell if it was fear or adrenaline, or both. Behind me, I felt her presence again. She had followed me, not aggressively, just close enough, like she was still trying to decide whether to stop me or let me go. I didn't wait to find out. I climbed the stairs fast, forcing myself forward. At the exit door, I stopped for half a second, trying to figure out the lock mechanism. My mind was racing, my body already preparing for the worst. And then, I heard footsteps behind me again, closer this time. I turned slightly. It was her, standing right there. And for the first time, she didn't look confused or playful or seductive. She looked frustrated, almost annoyed. But she still opened the door for me. I don't know why,
I just remember saying a quick thanks and stepping outside into the night air like I had just escaped something I couldn't fully understand yet. I didn't run immediately. I just walked fast, trying to hold myself together until I reached safety. Halfway down the street, I checked my phone again. No calls, no messages, no emergency response. Just silence. I made it back to my place, heart still racing, and immediately checked my security cameras. Nothing. No triggers, no movement, no signs that anyone had followed me. That made it even worse, because if nothing was recorded, then what exactly had I just walked out of? Later that night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. It was her, calm again, completely normal, like nothing had happened. She told me I was overthinking everything and that I should come back. For a moment, I almost questioned myself. Maybe I had misread everything. Maybe I was just paranoid. But then she said something that erased all doubt. She said, "I know your roommate isn't home yet." My stomach dropped, because she was right. There was no way she should have known that. I didn't respond. I just ended the call and never looked back.
I was 15 when it happened. It started as something completely normal, just an evening run like I used to do almost every day. I didn't like running inside my neighborhood because the turns were confusing and distracting, so I usually chose the long sidewalk that ran beside the highway. It wasn't completely isolated. People biked there sometimes, dog walkers passed by, and nearby there was a fire station, which always made me feel a little safer. At least, I thought it did. That day, it had been raining all morning. The air was still heavy and damp even in the evening, and the sky was turning that dull gray-blue color right before sunset. I remember texting my mom before I left, telling her I was going for a run and I'd be back soon. My phone, my pepper spray, everything I usually carried was with me. At first, everything felt normal. My music was playing, my pace was steady. The world felt quiet in a comfortable way. But then I noticed something ahead of me. A golf cart. It was stopped near the side of the path. At first, I didn't think much of it. There was a golf course nearby, so it wasn't unusual to see them. But as I got closer, something felt off. The smell hit me first. A strong, unmistakable scent of weed drifting from the cart. Inside was an older man. I remembered passing him earlier that day, but I hadn't paid attention then. Now, something about him made my skin tighten. He was just sitting there, watching the path, waiting. I lowered my gaze and kept running, trying to ignore the feeling creeping up my spine. As I passed him, I heard him say something. I didn't catch the words. I didn't want to. I kept going, but after a few seconds, I made a mistake. I looked back, and that's when I saw it. The golf cart wasn't stationary anymore. The headlights were on, and he was moving, following me, slowly, deliberately. My stomach dropped instantly. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. A golf cart on a sidewalk chasing me. Then fear took over completely. I started running faster, not jogging, running, full sprint. My breath turned sharp, uneven. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it over my music. I reached for my phone and called my mom. My voice was shaking as I tried to explain what was happening, but I was already crying, and I was still running, still being followed. I was running as fast as I could, but it didn't feel like it was enough. Every time I glanced back, the golf cart was still there, not far behind,
not losing distance, just following. Steady, silent, relentless. My mom was still on the phone asking me what was happening, but my words kept breaking apart between breaths and panic. I couldn't explain it properly. It sounded insane even as I said it out loud. A man, he's following me in a golf cart. I remember hearing the change in her voice immediately, confusion turning into alarm. Ahead of me, the path curved slightly, and I saw something that made me feel a flicker of hope. A group of older people in another golf cart turning into a nearby neighborhood entrance. I didn't think, I just ran toward them, waving, shouting, desperate. They slowed down when they saw me, and I managed to get close enough to say I needed help. I don't even remember exactly what I said, just that I was scared and someone was following me. They let me in. The moment I climbed into their cart, I thought it was over. I thought I was safe. But when I looked back, my stomach dropped again. Because he didn't stop. The man in the other golf cart was still coming, still following, still closing in like he didn't care who was watching, like nothing was wrong with what he was doing. The people who picked me up immediately realized something was off. The mood shifted. One of them started calling someone, probably the police. My breathing was uncontrollable at that point. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting him to speed up, to crash into us, to do something. But he didn't. He just kept following at a steady pace, like he wasn't done yet. By the time my mom arrived, I was shaking so badly I could barely stand. She saw me first and ran over immediately. For a moment, I thought it was finally over. But then she saw the other golf cart approaching behind us, and her face changed. She didn't understand what was happening yet. She thought the people who helped me were involved. That misunderstanding only lasted a few seconds, but it felt longer than everything before it. Because in those seconds, the man was still coming closer, still watching, still not stopping. And I remember thinking one thing clearly. This wasn't just someone randomly following me anymore. This felt intentional, like I had been chosen.
My mom reached me within minutes, but it felt like forever. When she finally arrived, she ran straight toward me without hesitation. I was still shaking, still trying to catch my breath, still looking over my shoulder every few seconds. And that's when everything got even more confusing. The golf cart that had been following me was still there, not far behind, still visible, still moving slowly toward us. My mom looked at it, then back at me, completely confused and panicked. For a moment, she genuinely thought the people who had picked me up were involved in something wrong. She was trying to process too many things at once, me crying, strangers nearby, and another vehicle still approaching us. But then, the people who had helped me started explaining. Calmly, clearly. They told her what happened, that they saw me running and crying, that I waved them down for help, and that the other golf cart had been following me the entire time. Slowly, the tension shifted. My mom's face changed from confusion to realization, and then anger. Not at them, at the situation, at the man still approaching. Because even now, he hadn't stopped. He was close enough that we could see him clearly, an older man, sitting in the golf cart, just watching. Not speaking, not explaining, not turning away, just there. My mom stepped slightly in front of me without even thinking, like a shield. One of the helpers was already on the phone with emergency services, giving them location details. I remember hearing words like harassment and following a minor, but the man in the golf cart didn't react to any of it. He just sat there, waiting. The air felt heavier the closer he got, like everyone around him suddenly became aware that this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was deliberate. And the strangest part was, he never tried to run, never tried to escape. He just stayed visible, like he wanted us to know he wasn't afraid. And that realization made my stomach drop even harder than before. Because whatever this was, it didn't feel like it was ending yet. It felt like it was just getting started.
The police were still on the way, but the situation already felt frozen in place, like time had slowed down around us. My mom kept me close, one arm around my shoulders, while her other hand pointed toward the approaching golf cart. She was trying to stay calm, but I could feel her tension. She wasn't just worried anymore. She was analyzing everything happening in real time. The older group who had helped me stayed nearby too, forming a kind of accidental barrier between me and him. And still, he kept coming. Not fast, not aggressive, just steady, like he had all the time in the world. When he finally got close enough, I could see his face clearly. He didn't look angry, he didn't look panicked. He looked calm, almost blank, like none of this was unusual. That's what made it worse, because most people would stop, or explain, or react in some way. But he didn't. He just sat there in the driver's seat, hands resting loosely, eyes fixed in our direction. One of the helpers stepped forward and loudly asked him what he was doing. No answer, no movement, just silence. That silence felt louder than anything else. My mom pulled me slightly backward, as if instinct was telling her not to let me stand too close. Someone mentioned that the police were almost there now. And finally, something changed. Not in us, in him. For the first time, the man in the golf cart shifted slightly. Not in a way that felt natural. It was slow, deliberate, almost mechanical, like he had been waiting for a specific moment. Then, without saying a word, he turned his golf cart slightly, just enough to angle it away from us. Not fully leaving, not fully staying, just repositioning, watching, waiting. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The headlights were still on, even though it wasn't dark anymore. He had turned them on earlier and never turned them off. It felt intentional, like he wanted to be seen the entire time, like hiding was never part of his plan. And in that moment, I realized something that made my skin crawl. He wasn't trying to chase me anymore. He wasn't trying to catch me. He was just observing, studying the situation, like he already knew how it would end, and he was waiting for us to figure it out ourselves.
A few minutes later, the police finally arrived. The sound of the siren broke the tense silence like a sudden crack in glass. 2 patrol cars pulled in fast, lights flashing across the road and nearby grass. Only then did the man in the golf cart react. Not dramatically, not panicked, just slowly, turning his head toward the lights. The officers stepped out immediately and started speaking to everyone. Me, my mom, the witnesses, trying to piece together what had happened. When they turned toward the man, their tone changed. Firm, controlled, serious. They asked him to step out of the cart. He didn't resist. He just complied, slowly, like it was expected. There was no struggle, no argument, no explanation that made sense. And that's what made everything feel even more unsettling. Because even when confronted by police, he didn't seem surprised.
It was like he already knew this moment was coming. As they spoke to him, I stayed behind my mom, still shaken, still trying to understand how something like this even happened on what was supposed to be a normal run. The officers eventually separated him from the situation completely and began their questioning away from us. I never heard exactly what he said, but I remember the feeling that stayed with me long after. Confusion mixed with something heavier. Like nobody could fully explain why he did what he did. There was no dramatic conclusion, no clear motive revealed in front of me, just uncertainty and unanswered questions. Eventually, I was taken home, safe but not calm, because even after everything ended, my mind kept replaying the same image over and over again. A golf cart, headlights on, following me slowly, steadily, like it never intended to stop in the first place. Years later, I still think about it sometimes. Not just the fear of being followed, but the feeling that I wasn't randomly targeted that day. That something about me or my situation had drawn his attention in a way I'll never fully understand. And the worst part is not knowing the answer, because some questions don't come with closure, only memory and distance, and the lingering thought that it could have gone very differently if I had been even a little bit less lucky.